And you are right in time for our health check segment right here on Good Morning Kenya. Thank you for staying with us on Good Morning Kenya. Now, this morning, our conversation is on hepatitis, and we are going to be looking at Kenya's roadmap to a free hepatitis free future, that is. And we are going also to be looking at, finding hope beyond the diagnosis of hepatitis, and we'll get to understand the types of hepatitis that are most common in Kenya. And just to let you know, this infection is known as a silent infection. Why is that so? Because 87% of people living with hepatitis are undiagnosed in the country. So we will be getting into that, and I'm more than pleased to be joined by the senior research scientist from the Kenya Medical Research Institute, that is KEMRI. He is Dr. Misiani Ochwoto. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure to have you here this morning as we get to talk about this particular infection that is hepatitis. And, first of all, just getting to understand that it is a silent infection. 87% undiagnosed. Maybe if we may begin there, why do we have such a huge number of people that are not yet diagnosed? They don't know they have hepatitis.
Thank you very much for that. Mm-hmm. Actually, most of the people do not know they are infected with hepatitis for two reasons. One, it is an epidemic. It is silent. It has signs and symptoms that look like any other infection. For example, if you are infected, then you will not really know you are infected because you will have jaundice, you will have malaise. That is the normal conditions that anybody can have. For that reason, you realize that people, even if they seek medication, hardly will the doctors remember to test them for the hepatitis. And number two, 95% of those who are infected, they can actually clear it. Without any medication. But those who progress after 6 months, that is from acute to chronic, then they develop what we call a latent state, whereby there is no sign, there is nothing, but the infection is still there. So during that time, hardly do people seek medication.
All right. Let's get to the definition. What is hepatitis?
Hepatitis actually means inflammation of the liver. And this can be caused by quite a number of things. Mention them like drugs. They can be caused by other bacterial infections. It can also be caused by fungal infections. But of these infections, of importance to us is that which is caused by viral infection, especially hepatitis. We have 5 of them, which are caused by the virus. They are hepatitis A, hepatitis B, hepatitis C, D, and E. Of these, they are not caused by the same virus. Actually, they are caused by different viruses. But because they infect the liver, that is why they have the word hepatitis. And they are also caused by different modes of transmissions. For example, hepatitis A and hepatitis E, they are actually caused by fecal-oral. For that reason, people, they get infected by drinking water or food that is infected. But hepatitis B, C, and D, they are transmitted through body contact of infected person. Yes, now, of these which are caused by contact, especially hepatitis B, C, and D, they also lead to chronic infection. Hepatitis C, since we come from a research institution, I can say it is an RNA virus. And that differentiates it from hepatitis B, which is a DNA virus. And for your information, hepatitis B, it is so stable on the surface, even up to 7 days. Yes, and that is why it is normally referred as 100 times infectious than HIV.
Yes. It's 100 times
infectious
than HIV.
Yes.
All right. Which are the common types in Kenya?
The common types in Kenya, we have, of course, the hepatitis A is common, and that is actually because it is fecal oral transmitted, and most people clear it without even any treatment.
Yeah.
But hepatitis C is common in Kenya, not in all populations, but in people who inject the drugs. And therefore, for that reason, it is common along the coastal region at around 17%, in Nairobi and in Kisumu. Those are the areas where we have done research through NASCOP. We have noticed that it is common in those areas. Hepatitis B is completely spread across the country, and it is common in almost all the counties. But we have where it is higher than other counties. For example, in Turkana, it is 16.7%. In Baringo, it is around, in some places in Baringo, it is 10.2, 10.7%. And in northern part of the country, we have also noticed it in Bungoma, in Elgeyo Marakwet. There the prevalence is slightly higher than any other places. So those are the ones that are common. We have also noticed the hepatitis delta, but the numbers yet are not adding up.
So as it is right now in the country, hepatitis B has a higher prevalence in the country. So allow us to just focus on that mainly, right? Since it has the higher prevalence, if you allow me.
Yes, and before we go to hepatitis B, which is prevalent, let me just talk of beyond diagnosis for hepatitis C. Hepatitis C, we know the pockets where it is common. It is common in the areas I've mentioned and in certain cohorts of people who inject drugs, and sometimes people who interact with those who inject drugs. And for that reason, we really know where it is. And another thing about hepatitis C is it has a treatment which is actually given for 12 weeks. Therefore, if we are targeting this, we have only one agenda, to eliminate the hepatitis C for one reason. We know where it is curable, and anybody who is infected can easily get the treatment. For that, if we are looking forward on the future, it is something that we can eradicate. Even borrowing from Egypt's example, we can easily eradicate
Egypt was able to eradicate
hepatitis
C completely.
Not really eradicating, but they had a prevalence of 17%. They reduced it to 0 point something percent, simply because of the treatment and making sure that people are diagnosed early enough.
So where do we stand as a country in the fight against hepatitis B? You know, putting in consideration, you know, a place like Egypt, like you've just mentioned, they were able to bring the numbers completely down. So where do we stand as a country in the fight against this? Are you seeing us getting to that point where we are able to also just bring these numbers completely down?
Hepatitis B is manageable. Hepatitis B has a very stable vaccine. And hepatitis B, we know where this is common. So as a country where we stand, and what actually should be our focus is, let's have our goals right. And our goals means, how can we manage the hepatitis B, which is common. And if you go even to blood transfusion, you realize among the blood transfusion and all those others, it is even higher than HIV and hepatitis C and even syphilis. So as a country, where we are is that we have started the training of health workers, and this is through the NASCOP. Number two, hepatitis B, we have studied it to understand the modes of transmissions of hepatitis B. What is common in Kenya in terms of the modes of transmission is mother-to-child transmission, or what we call childhood infection. And for that, we as the country are focusing on how to screen all mothers who attend the ANC, and if possible, at the first ANC. And I'm happy that as a country now, we have been able to screen them for hepatitis B, syphilis, and HIV. And if possible, we have done research to show that if we combine the screening, that is to all of them to have as screen to be tested as one, we can increase the rate of hepatitis B testing because it is actually dragging behind. So that is where we are, and we are looking forward on how to test all of them at the same time. Number two, the other thing which we should intensify, and that is not common for now, but it's something we are looking forward to, is that we intensify what we call the knowing where we have the hotspots. Now, we had a survey that was done some years back, and that survey was in 2018. It was called KenFear. It really gave us a limelight on where we are supposed to focus. And where we are supposed to focus is the areas that have the high burden. And I've mentioned those areas that have a high burden. So if we focus on those areas, create awareness in those areas, and create awareness in those areas and map the hotspots, then it will help us understand relatively where we're supposed to put our impact. Another thing which we have also done is to understand the transmission dynamics. This disease, it is highly infectious than HIV. It is also sexually transmitted. But one of the things that we can easily handle is household transmissions. Remember, it is actually transmitted from the contact, and within the household. We did this in Baringo at a place called Margaret, and we noticed that most of the transmissions occur within the household. And molecular, if you look at it in terms of molecular, you will actually see how similar those genomes are within the household. So most of the transmission occur within the household. And for that, informing these people, creating awareness among this household on how to reduce the transmission is important. However, that also has a setback. That if they realize in a family that somebody has it, sometimes they try to... The stigma now comes in. So also now stigma is something that we are also supposed to handle at that point. But we know the modes of transmission, we know the hotspots, and also we understand how this can be managed.
So what exactly causes it? I mean, you've mentioned how it's transmitted.
Yes.
Do we know what causes it?
In terms of what it causes, it is a viral.
Okay.
And it is a very small virus.
Okay.
Actually, it has only 3,200 nucleotides. Very small. It's the smallest DNA virus. However, because it is so stable, it can be transmitted by contact, including surfaces that are contaminated. For those who are growing up when they were young during the ear piercing, and for those who during when some years back, when you have a wound, people are dressing the wound and all that, there will be actually body contacts. So in areas where it is common, those are the modes of transmission, and also the sexual transmission, of course, which goes without mention.
All right. You mentioned jaundice as one of the symptoms for it. So maybe are there other early warning signs that one can look out for?
Yeah, jaundice is one of them. We have the body being weak. We do have, actually those are the main two categories. The rest look like malaria. They're all signs for malaria. And in most cases, especially in Baringo, we have also vomiting and having, how do you call it, a headache and such like. Yes.
So, from when we began by mentioning that 87% of people are undiagnosed, so they're living with it, but they don't even have an idea that they are living with it. And going by the statistics, I read on a research that 5% of the ones that are diagnosed are receiving treatment, which means 8% are, they know they have it, but they are not receiving any kind of treatment. So what happens when it goes untreated for long? Because clearly it is going untreated as we speak right now, going by the numbers that we've just pointed out. So what is the long-term effect?
This hepatitis affects the liver. And the cells of the liver are called the hepatocytes. So once it affects the liver, it multiplies within the liver and releases the virions into the bloodstream and all that. As it does that, the liver just has a way of compensating and has a way of recovering from that. But a long-term effect is that as more viruses are released from the liver, it causes the cirrhosis.
Okay.
And if this goes uncontrolled, it causes the liver cancer. That is the pathogenesis of the disease.
Okay.
And for this reason is 90% of those who are infected, they clear the virus without even any treatment. And that is during the acute phase of the infection. However, 5% between 5 and 10% of those who don't clear the virus, they progress to chronic infection. And the chronic infection here means this person was infected, 6 months later, he still has the virus and the body has not mounted enough immunity to clear the virus. So these people, they may stay with this virus for even up to 20 to 30 years without them knowing that they are infected, without them showing any clinical sign. However, at times we do have what we call the flares. The flares is at one time you start showing the signs and the symptoms of the disease, especially the jaundice, headache, and body weakness. So this is the time when some of them actually seek medication. So that is for the adult. For the infant, if you are infected at birth, and because it is actually mother-to-child transmission, it occurs, if you are infected at birth, then you have a 95% chance of developing chronic infection. So among the children, actually, most of them, they develop the liver cancer and all that quite early because 95% of them, they progress to chronic infection. But only 5% of them clears the virus at that age. But again, remember, during the infants, most of the maternal and the infant immunity is not that strong at that moment. So for that reason, that's why they develop the chronic infection. So the adults who develop or who clears the virus, they develop what we call the antibodies, which are actually protective. And these people, they will completely have those antibodies and they will never be infected again. That is a natural vaccine. But these other ones who never manages to clear the virus, then they progress to chronic infection and now they need treatment, they need intervention for them to clear the virus. However, that intervention, we have a criteria of knowing who to treat and who not to treat, but we have to at least make sure that this person has achieved the criteria. Why this is because of what we call people who are infected, we will put them on long-term treatment. And before we put them on that long-term treatment, we have really to make sure that they deserve that long-term treatment. Since, again, the treatment that we use is the same as that of the HIV, it so again introduces...
treated through the same treatment? So the ARVs?
Yes, the ARVs. Slowly, let me just say why we use the same treatment.
Yes, please.
Most of the treatment that we use, hepatitis B, it has what we call a reverse transcriptase. That is what it uses for it to make its copies. And that reverse transcriptase enzyme it has the same activity as the one which we have in HIV. So most of the HIV drugs are actually the analog of that enzyme. And that is why we use the same treatment as that. However, that again brings what we call stigma when we are administering these treatments, especially for the people who are not HIV positive. So for them, some of them will be like, you are giving us the same treatment, and if they were not cancelled properly when they were given the treatment, that poses another stigma issue. Yeah.
Okay. And you touched on liver cancer, and research also shows that 60 to 80% of all liver cancer cases in sub-Saharan Africa are linked to hepatitis B. And from what you've just explained to us, this is hepatitis B can be preventable, first of all through the vaccine, and it's also manageable. So maybe who should prioritize getting this vaccine, being that someone can be born with hepatitis B and live for so many years without even knowing they have it, and then maybe it gets to develop into the chronic, which is liver cancer. So who should prioritize getting tested to avoid us getting to the point where one has developed liver cancer or the cirrhosis?
Actually, all mothers, as we speak, especially those who are attending the ANC, by being pregnant, that is a risk by itself. Why? Because this is a sexually transmitted infection, therefore that is a risk. And therefore all mothers who go to the ANC are tested because of that risk. Number two, people who are born in areas where hepatitis B is prevalent, and I have mentioned those places. When we go outside the country, people who come from Africa, by just being born in Africa, that poses a risk. So those people should be at least tested. In Kenya, people who are born in areas where hepatitis B is prevalent, they should actually seek testing. And the testing here, it is a rapid test kit. Those rapid test kits are very, very fast. Within 20 minutes, you have your results. Either you are infected or you are not infected. However, once somebody has been tested, that is not the end. And in testing, we normally test what we call the surface antigen. The surface antigen, this is a protein which is there, and it confirms that somebody has the infection. So that alone tells you that you are infected. So for these people who are in areas where it is common, and the mothers especially who are expectant across the country, those must be tested. Besides that, if we have people you cannot explain, especially you go to hospital, they have tested malaria, they have tested typhoid, they have tested all these other illnesses, I think the other thing that should be prioritized in the country is testing of hepatitis B. Why? Because we have seen it in many places, and even in other places where we really did not expect that. So we should prioritize that. Testing is one. But there is another level that it is beyond testing. Most people have done the tests, but the other challenge which we have is, do we link these people to care? In most of the studies that we have conducted, majority of the people, they know their status, but very few of them are linked to care. What does it mean for this person to be linked to care? Two things or three things. One, you have to confirm that that person's the viral load of that person. And in the viral load, those who have very high viral loads, actually we should look at their liver functions test. So one has to do the test. You have also to continue the diagnosis by looking at the viral load. You also look at the liver functions test. Then you also look at, if people can do the ultrasound, the better. However, access to this other diagnostic, that is the main challenge we have in Kenya. Number one, viral load is very expensive. It costs more than 10,000. In other places, up to 20,000, depending where you do it. How many Kenyans who are infected can access that? Number two, the liver functions test, depending on where you are doing it, it is more than 1,500 or 2,000. And how many people can do that? So what are we looking at is that we should also, in as much as we prioritize the testing, we should also prioritize and look at how can we allow our people access the other diagnostic, for example, the viral load and the liver functions test and the ultrasound, which is not accessible in the primary health care. So bringing these things closer to the people who are infected will be a priority that we should look forward to for us to manage the infection of hepatitis.
And also, just speaking about still managing it and working towards preventing it completely,
Yes.
I want us to speak on the vaccine, and the vaccine and when it is administered. Because as you mentioned, there's the mother-to-child transmission.
Yes.
So normally in Kenya, and I stand corrected, you correct me if I'm wrong, children go for vaccination while they're infants from 6 weeks.
Correct.
So between the time of birth to the 6 weeks, is that not scary that, the child might already have gotten it? If you can speak on that, please.
Yes. We test the mothers. We test the mothers who are infected. And when we test these mothers, they are actually given the treatment there and then. The treatment the mothers who are infected are given is very important in the sense that it reduces the viral load to a low level so that during birth, there will be no transmission during birth. Okay. That is why all mothers, regardless of their viral load, regardless of their liver functions, regardless of other tests, they are straight away linked to care. That's number one. The children who are born, if they are born of mothers who are infected, we highly encourage that these children to be given a vaccine that is called birth dose vaccines. Birth dose vaccines means this, that a child is given a monotherapy vaccine within 24 hours of birth. So that vaccine is important in the sense that this child, remember, is exposed. When he goes or she goes home, he will not contact that disease between week 0 and week 6. All children in Kenya receive their hepatitis B pentavalent vaccine at 6 weeks. But if you are born in a place where hepatitis is common, there is a 95% chance of being infected between 0 and 6 weeks. So we are encouraging, and this in private facilities this is done, but in our public institutions this is not done, that any child who is born of hepatitis mother should be vaccinated within 24 hours. Now let me tell you something that we have been doing, and I like calling it the clean generation. In our clean generation, what we are looking at is that if a mother is infected, the mother receives the treatment between the time she was diagnosed until the time that she delivers. However, we have gone a step ahead, especially as KEMRI, to give them the birth doses. And for now, we have done up to 77 of the mothers who are hepatitis positive, but none of them, and we have tested the children. We normally test them at 6 weeks. We also test them at 9 months to see if they are infected. They are completely not infected, and we have confirmed that.
So these are children who were administered the vaccine immediately after birth?
24 hours.
24 hours.
Yes. That has to be administered 24 hours. But in our epidemiological studies, and especially where hepatitis B is common, and here I'm mentioning Marigat and in Baringo, we have seen children who are below the age of 10 years who are infected. Not that they did not receive the vaccine. No, they received the vaccine at 6 weeks, but they are infected at that point. What that tells you is that these children were infected between 0 and week 6. We really encourage that all this to be given birth doses. And there are two ways of doing that. We can do it selectively. As a country, we can do it selectively. Selectively in the sense that let us focus on the children who are born of mothers who are infected, because we really know that they are exposed. The other way of doing it is let us also look at regions where we have hepatitis high. Where we have hepatitis high, let us make it universal. And that vaccine is not very expensive, by the way. However, its impact is long term. Yes, so that is number one. And during World Hepatitis Day, we really did this, and it really came out so clearly. This year's World Hepatitis Day, we had a theme of let us let us break it down.
Okay.
One of the things that we were focusing on breaking it down is mother-to-child transmissions, completely reducing them and sensitizing the population that they need the birth doses. That is one of the things that we are looking forward to break it down. Another thing we are looking to break it down is the stigma. These people are stigmatized, and we're looking down on how to reduce the stigma. And now we have champions of hepatitis B. These are the people who will come out to share their experience, to share their viral load results and all that, to show you that actually the management work. Because when people are given long-term treatment, sometimes they say, why am I being given long-term management? I should not have been given all this treatment. However, looking at it from that perspective, we have many other diseases that we manage. Diabetes is one of them. Hypertension is one of them. They are actually managed. HIV is another one. So why not hepatitis? So breaking down that stigma of long term is something that we have done. And this year, we also did something that we have never done before. That is, we had one of our donors who gave us a viral load machine. It is by Remedy, and they came in to help us at least do the viral load. That really helped us to understand the type of population that we have. Yes, we do have most carriers in that region. We did it in Margaret. Majority of them are actually carriers, but we also have those who have very high viral loads, and they have been on treatment. So we are looking forward to understand why they hide the viral load and all that. But for the first time, having a point of care viral load, which will cost less than, say, 1,000, is something that we are looking forward to, and something that can be employed in very remote areas away from the referral facilities. That is something that we are actually looking forward to.
Yeah. So maybe what breakthroughs are you seeing right now? You can speak maybe in the point of research of hepatitis, or just the breakthroughs that we are seeing matters hepatitis at the moment?
Let me mention around 2 or 3 breakthroughs.
Okay.
Number one, from last year or like 2 years ago, all mothers are now tested for hepatitis B. To me, that is a breakthrough. Why? Because and this is done by the government through NASCOP. This will break down what we call mother-to-child transmission. That is a huge breakthrough. And number 2 is we have demonstrated that if we have a mother who is infected and is put on the treatment, they reduce the viral load, and that can also result to reducing the transmissions. That is another breakthrough, even at the household level. Another breakthrough which we are looking forward to is how to bring the services closer to the population. And this includes the viral load. If we have a way of bringing viral load so close to the population, that is another breakthrough. One biggest challenge we have at the moment is on vaccination. Actually, we may not have so many vaccines for us to administer to the people who are negative. So that is the only challenge which we have. And I think we should be looking on how even this can be done in Kenya. That will help us at least provide the vaccination to all who test negative. Yeah, and another breakthrough is creating awareness. People need to know their status of hepatitis. People need to hear these stories more often than not. So if we concentrate on how to create awareness, then everybody will actually look for the tests by themselves, not necessarily us asking them to look for the test. The other one is we are mapping our hotspots. That is, it is expensive, but it is something that we should put our efforts and our resources to. When we know our hotspots, it is easier to manage the hepatitis.
Okay. So, it is actually classified by the World Health Organization as a global public health threat. Yes. So are you seeing a future whereby we can actually be hepatitis free? Are you seeing it in the near future as we wind up?
Yes. WHO has goals, And one of the goals is to eliminate hepatitis by 2030. This campaign started in 2016. Yes, we are only like around 4 or 5 years to that. But if we look at the targets that are set by WHO, I'm seeing a future. And not only that, the other future we are seeing is what I call the clean generation. As some of us who are aging, we will move and then we die with our hepatitis. But the generation that is behind us, how can we ensure that that generation is without the hepatitis? To me, that is the biggest future, and I'm actually rallying people to join the campaign that is for hepatitis-free, and especially the clean generation. Why? Let us have children who are born free of hepatitis.
All right. I'll allow you to give us your final remarks.
2 final remarks. Hepatitis is a problem in the country, and anybody can be infected. However, let us see how well we can manage those who have the disease, both hepatitis B and C, but more importantly hepatitis B, because it is a disease that is really managed and it can remain low. The other thing is that I'm looking forward how we can reduce the cost of treatment. Now it is offered, yes, for free, but we really do not know how long this will last. So we are looking forward on how we can bring the treatment down, especially the monotherapy for this disease, for this infection, hepatitis B. The other thing is that how can we rally our resources? Hepatitis B is higher than any infection, but is poorly funded. How can we have our resources and channel our resources to this hepatitis to acquire vaccines and to acquire the treatment? Those are some of the things that we look forward as a country.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Misiani. It was a pleasure having you on the show and just shedding light on hepatitis and hepatitis B, to be specific as well. It was a pleasure having you. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.